जय हिंद दोस्तों, मैं हूं मेजर मोहम्मद अली शाह और मैं अभी एक ऐसे इलस्ट्रियस जनरल ऑफिसर के साथ अभी गुफ्तगू में होऊंगा जो तारुफ की कोई मोहताज नहीं है। आप सब इनको जानते हैं, अक्सर इनको टीवी शोज में बड़े बड़े चैनल्स पे देखते हैं एंड टॉकिंग ऑन जियो पॉलिटिक्स, टॉकिंग ऑन लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स ऑन national security, on the international affairs, on so many things. He's had a very, very illustrious career. He was commissioned in the 4 Kumaon Battalion in 1977. In 1984, he does something which we cannot miss. He's got the sobriquet of the hero of Siachen, and he was the first Indian soldier to step on Siachen Glacier. And imagine, and he was awarded a Kirti Chakra for that. And what an illustrious career! And what a fine human being. Very down to earth, very easygoing, and a very simple gentleman who needs no introduction. And once again, let's go ahead and converse with Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni. Sir, Jai Hind, and thank you very much for spending time, sir.
Thank you, Jai Hind. Pleasure. And I think it's reciprocal. You've been a wonderful person. You've done so well while in the army. You're doing so well outside the army. I think your positivity rubs, and that's where I think you see only good in people, and that is why you've been rather magnanimous in your praise. And to be honest, nothing. You can do nothing if until and unless the soldiers who are with you do it, because you know how the army functions. Army is a team, and together everybody achieves more, and there can't be any there's nothing. Nobody can take any credit from them, and neither must they feel that they did it. Nobody can do it. The team can do it. Team does it. Be it in Siachen and be it in Kargil or anywhere for that matter. The soldiers are a team, and they put in their best under a leader. That's it, and nothing more and nothing less. Yeah.
Sir, I have to confess something to you. So, sometimes when the guest coordinator from some television channel calls up and says, sir, ye ek live hai. And I genuinely, at that moment, I would love to have gone, but उस time पे मैं किसी वजह से आ नहीं पा रहा हूँ. You know how he entices me? He tells me, sir, जेल संजय कुलकर्णी साहब पैनल में. मैं क्या बात कर रहे हो? Done. Everything goes for a toss. Everything is put aside. That takes priority for me. So that is the learning I get from you, sir. आपको देख देख के मैं ऐसे
नहीं ऐसे कुछ नहीं है. हम सब एक जैसे हैं. सब अपने अपने तरीके से कंट्रीब्यूट करते हैं. एंड किसी ने भी ये नहीं कहना चाहिए कि मैंने किया. द वर्ड मैं इज ऑलवेज मिसिंग. इट्स हमने किया, हम सब ने किया, और हम सभी कर सकते हैं. एंड दैट इज व्हाई इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट दैट वी मस्ट ऑल स्टे टुगेदर. वी मस्ट ऑल स्टे यूनाइटेड. वी मस्ट ऑल हैव वन विजन, and that is to make our nation great at all times. Nothing else should, sort of divert us or take us off the path. Nation, and that is how we all are brought up. Nation comes first, always and every time. Yeah.
Sir, you were commissioned 1977, 4 Kumaon Battalion, and then in 1984, when you got the orders that कि आपको सियाचिन पे जाना है, and could you tell us a bit about that journey, sir? कि कैसे जब वो आपको पहली मर्तबा आपने सुना कि आपको सियाचिन पे जाना है, and then your experience upon going there and such thing. Though we've heard it, but each time we hear it, it is less. We want to hear more of it, sir. Sir.
See, what happened is, as you rightly said, I was commissioned in 1977, and I was given 4 Kumaon. And having commissioned into 4 Kumaon, it was a pleasure because it's a very old battalion with a huge past history. First, Paramveer Chakra, Major Somnath Sharma from 4 Kumaon, who got it in the Battle of Udgam on the 3rd of November 1947, whose brother became the chief of the army staff. Yet another brother became the engineer-in-chief. And the engineer-in-chief has, he's already crossed 100 and maybe lived long. Every time I meet him, I feel so happy. His sharp memory, and on his 2 legs, and it's perfect, and both of them excellent, perfect gentlemen. So it was always a pleasure, and one had to prove oneself in 4 Kumaon. But notwithstanding that commission, I went to Tangdhar. Having served in Tangdhar, then while in Tangdhar and got back to Dehradun for a peace station. And as soon as we were just completing our peace station there, we were told to move to a place called Batalik. And that is where we first moved to Batalik, जहाँ पे हमने देखा कारगिल युद्ध का एक बहुत बड़ा in 1999. And वाकई वहाँ पे I was also surprised for the first time when I saw Batalik, only पत्थर. I was amazed. इतने सारे पत्थर, इतने बड़े पत्थर, my God, and solid rocks, huge rocks, unbelievable rocks. So काफी टाइम उधर बिताने के बाद I went there as the 2IC advance party that was to Batalik, and having taken over, then I was suddenly told that no, by my OC advance party, that orders have come. Please come. We have to go to Turtuk. I said, wow. Now going to Turtuk means I have to now cross Khardungla Pass. So I said, okay, but then everything will change because I have taken over vehicles. The battalion is expected to come in another month or so. He said, no, we'll get then सब कुछ करके we finally reached Turtuk. And that was the first time I got a chance because Ladakh Scout, and this is the year of 1982. So Ladakh Scout was doing a long range patrol of Siachen, and in that was in 1982 as part of Operation Ibex Hunt under Major Thapa. And since I was at Turtuk and in Partapo, there was a chance to go in the chopper, see what glacier looks like. And that was the first time I saw they're 76-kilometer long. My God, amazing, absolutely white and just beautiful between the Karakoram range and the Ladakh range. The Karakoram, as the name stands, is little dark black in color, and you have this Soltoro range, which was a little brownish in color. So two distinct ranges, and those two distinct ranges, which are about 2 to 5 kilometers wide, you had this glacier from the snout at about 11,000 feet, going right up to Indrakol, a little over about 21,000 feet, to the I would say to the west. As you move up to the Siachen, we had the Soltoro ridgeline. Then, when we first saw two prominent passes, Villafandla and Siala. But before I tell you what exactly happened and how it happened and what we did, in 1977, जैसे आपने कहा, I was commissioned, and commission होते ही, we used to be in the center. My center was Ranikhet because I was commissioned to the Kumaon regiment, and those days one spent a substantial time in the center. The center trained you for your YOs, so from there only you went for YOs. So center में 3-4 महीने रहने के बाद you went for your YOs, which were almost 5 months or so. So after that, then from center only I went on YOs and got back while the battalion was in Tangdhar. And as soon as the battalion was, I reached there, they told me, look, we have a vacancy for mountain warfare, basic course. So even though you may have just got back from doing commandos, you don't need a pre-course. I suggest you go to do mountain warfare basic course. I was also very happy. मैं कहा चलो उसी बहाने श्रीनगर घूम के आएंगे, गुलमर्ग देखेंगे, सोनामर्ग देखेंगे. So with that in view, we reached there, and then Kal Bull Kumar, popularly called Bull, from the Kumaon regiment. He was from 3 Kumaon, and he was the commandant. And I suddenly found as basic they gave you a peak to climb after training at Sonamarg. So we went to Ladakh, that is Leh, and we were told to climb Stok Kangri. The Kangri means a snow-covered peak, and Stok Kangri is the highest feature in Leh. And हम लोग फिर एक और कोर्स साथ में जा रहा था, and those days 3 tons होते थे, और 3 tons में बैठ करके सबके साथ हम लोग ले जा रहे. 2-3 दिन लगते थे, क्योंकि फर्स्ट हॉल्ट सोनामर्ग से निकले, फिर अपने द्रास में रुके, फिर सेकेंड डे देन यू गो डाउन टू ले, लाइक दैट. तो मैंने देखा कि जो एडवांस कोर्स था, दैट वाज बीइंग टेकन बाय दिस अपना कल बुल कुमार, एंड दैट वाज द ईयर ऑफ 78. एंड हमने कहा ये तो बहुत अच्छा है, कहाँ जा रहे हैं करके. सो एवरीबॉडी वाज नॉट डिस्क्लोजिंग जा कहाँ रहे हैं. मुझे भी नहीं मालूम था कहाँ जा रहे. एनीवे, हवा में पता चला ये लोग सियाचिन जा रहे हैं. हमने कहा ये कहाँ है. बोले वो खरदुंगला के उस पार है। हमने कहा ठीक है, नॉट वेरी मच, एट दैट यंग एज ए सेकंड लेफ्टिनेंट, व्हाट डू यू नो यार, क्या क्या मालूम होता है, तो कहा चलो अच्छी बात है। And then later I was told how the German expedition, the two of his German friends of Colonel बुल कुमार, उन्होंने अपने बुल कुमार को पहले 1975 में इंडस राफ्टिंग एक्सपीडिशन में साथ में ले गए थे। In 78 they wanted him to join another rafting expedition, this time down the Shock River. Now the Shock River originates from the Remo Glacier, जो गलवान हमने सुना, उस तकरीबन उस डायरेक्शन से ये श्योक नदी आती है, और नुब्रा जो है वो सियाचिन से बहती है। एंड नुब्रा और सियाचिन अपना ये श्योक नदी दोनों मिलते हैं एक जगह पे कॉल्ड डिस्कित। डिस्कित इज द प्लेस वेयर बोथ दिस रिवर्स मीट, और डिस्कित ही के थोड़े ऊपर अपना मेजर रिंचन, दी एमबीसी बार सेरेमल, उनका घर है। So when we went there in 78 to the transit camp, he used to be the OC transit camp in Leh, and very nice. So he asked me, "Where are you all going?" So we said, "We have come here to climb Kulkarni, and the other seniors were to go to Siachen." So he told us, acclimatize well, dhyan dena, ye karna. And first time I heard that, कि don't be a Gama in the land of Lama. They said, irrespective कैसे भी हो, अब अपने आप को फिट भी समझते हो, एक्लिमेटाइज, एंड एक्लिमेटाइजेशन इज अ मस्ट। एंड वो जो 6 दिन का बोलते हैं एक्लिमेटाइज करना, उसको ध्यान से करो, बिकॉज दैट वुड हेल्प यू। So that acclimatization, having कोर्स के द्वारा ले में रहना, so there used to be amongst people, they used to say, पेट में रोटी, हाथ में सोटी, चाल छोटी, because that meant कि if your breathing synchronizes with your stepping or walking, then you will never get tired. But it's very important that you must be able to synchronize your walking with breathing. These two must synchronize, or you'll get breathless. And if you get breathless, then there are problems. So उस वक्त पता चला when we were climbing Kulkarni, how some amongst us, felt a little uneasy, and there were some chaps who started hallucinating. And hallucination में होता है कि जैसे उस बंदे को नीचे लाना शुरू करोगे, वो फिर नहीं तो hallucination वो बड़बड़ाता है, and you feel पता नहीं what's gone wrong with him, has he lost his this thing. So as soon as you start bringing him down from height, is supposing he's at 19, 20, 21, 22, start bringing him down. So by the time it touches 14 and all, you find it's perfectly fine, as if kuch hua hi nahi. He himself might ask you, why have you brought me down here? So you find hallucinations, frostbite, chilblains, hapo, snow blindness, headache, insomnia, loss of appetite, loss of memory, all these kind of things associated with high altitude and this thing. But it was good fun. And then again, जैसे वापस मैं जब 82 में as part of that as twice year the advanced party battalion in Turtuk. Look, Turtuk is a beautiful place, and Turtuk is part of Gilgit Baltistan, and that was captured in 1971. Otherwise, till then, we were at a place called Chalumka, and from Chalumka you go up to along the Nala, the Gulab, this thing, and right on top, and that is a place called NJ 9842. Now that NJ 9842 in the Karachi Agreement of 1949, that's a point which is mentioned, and it says the thing terminates at NJ 9842, and the you can call the ceasefire line, then goes northwards along the glacier, then northwards along the glacier. That's the way it is written in the 1949 Karachi Agreement, because किसी ने सोचा नहीं कि उस हाइट पे कोई जाएगा, कोई देखेगा. It was considered barren, it was considered very difficult because it was all glaciated and temperatures would be -50, -60, blizzardous winds and whiteout conditions, very very heavy snowfall. ये एक ही रात में 10-12 फुट बर्फ गिर जाएगी. So if you have left something out in the open, probably you'll never ever find it in your life. The area full of crevices, avalanche prone, and all kinds of things. So it was very, very difficult kind of a thing, but a mountainous paradise. all said and done, a mountainous paradise. Matlab, badhiya peaks, climb karna, some difficult peaks, some easy peaks. And having gone there as part of Turtuk, I realized that Turtuk also has language. They would speak with Balti, and they'll be playing polo. And that polo is that famous. I'm forgetting that thing. Riding horses and picking up a goat. That kind of a thing, a sport which is very popular in Baltistan. And besides this kind of a thing, there would be most of our sustenance and logistics was airdrop. अभी तो roads बन गए, तो उस वक्त airdrops होते थे Turtuk, and then from Turtuk Chalunka, and the Pakistanis were right across, and then this river which was flowing after Diskit, it would go along Partapur and get around to that area, and then finally join Indus somewhere, a place called Crease near Skardu, where it meets Indus, and from there it flows. Subsequently, धीरे धीरे पता चला कि from Indra Kol, when we went, we could see the Shaksgam Ghati. The Shaksgam Valley is visible from Indra Kol. And from Indra Kol, when you are approaching, and as soon as you get onto the height of Indra Kol, you can see K2. Now, K2 is a little bit onto the westerly direction when you are standing there. It's the world's second highest peak, K2. And Mount Everest, of course, everybody knows is the highest peak, the K2. And when you stand on top of Indra Kol and look down, you can see a beautiful valley called the Shaksgam Valley. Now, the Shaksgam Valley adjoining Siachen was illegally ceded by Pakistan to China in 1963. And the strategic importance of this particular valley is that the Chinese wanted the grazing grounds. Over here, a lot of fight takes place for grazing, because you have animals, yaks and all your sheep and whatever. They require something to eat. And in such kind of hard areas, wherever little grass is there, everybody looks forward to that. And the animals are happy. And slowly and steadily, you have, say, about 400 animals or 500 animals. It might sound that you have animals, but you are very rich, because each of these animals costs quite a pile of money. Not so easy. So ऐसे करके we saw Shaksgam. And when I saw Shaksgam, then I was told that just further west of the Shaksgam, which was illegally ceded by Pakistan to China, is about 5,000 odd square kilometers. And 5,000 square kilometers, it has a pass called Khunjara Pass. Now, through the Khunjara Pass, through the Kashgar and Khunjara Pass, goes the Karakoram Highway. And this Karakoram Highway is what now we call it as part of the CPEC, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which goes and joins Gwadar. So you see from then on, 1963, illegally ceded. Then in 1984, and before that, for the first time that we saw Colonel Kumar on top of Siachen in 1978. Then he again had gone in 1981 before he hung his boots. 82, then the Ladakh scouts were there. 83, I led that patrol of Polar Bear onto that. And while I was leading that patrol of Polar Bear LRP at Billapondla, we spotted some soda wrappers. Now, those soda wrappers, at that point of time, we didn't know what kind of script it had. Anything that looked more pictorial, we thought was Chinese. So we thought it was Chinese wrappers. So we passed it on the radio set, saying that we have found some wrappers on top of Billapondla. And sure enough, the very next day, CDS General Bipin Rawat, his father was also there then as General Rawat, posted over there. He was commanding 19 Dev. Yeah.
His father was deputy chief, sir.
Yeah. And then at that time, I think he was the chief of staff over there. Then he immediately came the next day in a chopper. We were at Camp 3 and he said, kya dekha tum logon ne? We showed him those wrappers and we gave it to him. He said, ठीक है, कैसे हुआ, कितने देखे? हमने कहा ये इतना ही मिला और ये है. He said, okay, perfectly fine. And then whatever little time he had, he spent with us, spoke to us, and he left. Then later on, he informed that these are not Chinese wrappers, these are Japanese wrappers. And this language is Japanese, though both the languages look quite similar. Now I can understand Japanese, Korean, Chinese, you can identify and distinguish what is what. But at that point of time, one didn't know it. So we were quite happy. And then we were told later that Japanese expeditions and foreign expeditions were sponsored by Pakistan. And Pakistan invariably sent their army officer as a liaison officer along with his expeditions, and they would come and climb some of these beautiful peaks, Teram Kangri, Teram Sher, go over here, there, everything and that. But after 78, since Kumar had been there, and after that, this patrol, the Pakistanis did not sponsor any expedition, neither did they come. But in 1983, when we were there and we pulled back, the Pakistanis came on top. And the Pakistanis came on top of the Siachen glacier, and then you could spot them at places. However, they couldn't sustain themselves. And since they couldn't sustain themselves, it was the SSG over there, which had been sent. And I think it was some later on what General Musharraf writes in his book, In the Line of Fire. I think they were very, according to them, there's a very tough SSG commander called Tahir Mahmood who was there. And he was told, but he sent his team and they couldn't sustain themselves. That was the month of October, and they pulled back. And they pulled back because if they hadn't, they would have all died there. So we had pulled back, they had pulled back. But uske baad the Pakistanis left a note, and they're saying that, look, you people are time and again coming over here, and we must now be able to tell you that you're into our territory at all time, because from NJ 9842, the ceasefire line joins the Karakoram Pass, and that is what it is all about. So that is the first time Pakistan actually stated in black and white that the line joins the Karakoram Pass, and not what is written in the Karachi Agreement, NGA 9842, thence northwards along the glacier. That along the glacier northward meant the Soltoro ridge line. Because in mountains, you don't have a direct straight line, never. You always go around the mountain tops, because it's kind of watershed principle. So it is going along the ridge line. So usme, then after that was clear. We realized how did it happen. And later on, I read and I found out there is an American Hodgson Karke, who had drawn. He was part of the survey of the US. And those days, Pakistan was part of CENTO, CETO and all. So he just drew a line straight, because India also kept, pestering United States in 50s and in later 60s that you're showing Kashmir as disputed. It's part of us. This is the instrument of accession. So they said, okay, the CD line draw kar di from NJ 9842 to Karakoram Pass. So Hodgson is the man who drew it, whether he did it intentional or unintentional. Though the Americans did later say that it was part of the ADIZ. It's the Air Defense Information Zone, basically for pilots to be able to. The pilots should know which country are they entering from one country to the other country. So this ADIZ helps pilots change frequencies, change codes, and everything, so they know what it is. It was with that intention that Hodgson drew that line from NJ 9842 to Karakoram Pass. But whatever we saw, Pakistan took full advantage of it and decided to claim all of it. That means the cartographic aggression by Pakistan started initially by sponsoring the foreign expeditions and by firstly illegally ceding the Shaksam Valley to China and then sponsoring this thing. Thereby, they would have all been together. Now, if you realize this complete area is full of glaciers. Now, this also is the world's second longest glacier, the Siachen Glacier. Now, there's so many glaciers that this entire thing could well be called as the water reservoir for the entire South Asia and even Southeast Asia. Lovely. But the rivers from there can go right up to Shanghai and come right down to Indus. So from the top, from the Tibetan plateau, you can have all these rivers flowing, and you now see the kind of dams the Chinese are constructing, the kind of dam Chinese are constructing as part of the CPEC in Gilgit-Baltistan. So there's a lot that the Chinese are doing, and now, of course, the Chinese are very much in Gilgit-Baltistan. They're very much in Baluchistan. They're helping construct their own Gwadar. They're here helping constructing the highway. Now, from the highway, they have now taken a diversionary route, a nice four-way lane which comes right along the highway to Skardu. And from Skardu, it comes down to further up to a place called Khapalu. And Khapalu, once the roadhead is there, and from there the Pakistanis can climb up. Just precisely about a few hours, they're on top of the Soltoro ridgeline. So you find that the access from the Soltoro ridgeline onto Siachen is easier from the Pakistan side than it is from our side, because we have to walk for days on, 7, 8 days, establishing camp 1, camp 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then go to all these places. So there's a lot. So Pakistanis realized, and then it was so after that General Rawat, when he had come, father of Bipin Rawat, the CDS over there, we decided that obviously the Pakistanis came in back. So in 84, or rather 83, I was told by my commander, Brigadier Channa from Guards, he was the commander in 26 sector. Those days there was no brigade like the 102 here. It is a sector which had us only as an infantry battalion and a Ladakh scout. So that comprised the sector over there. So we were all told, and then they said, okay, I suggest you keep training after having got de-inducted in 83. Keep training, we will may have to go again for an LRP. I said, good enough. So I got some boys. This time they said, please train for a little more numbers. Last time you just trained 30 boys. This time you train a little more. So I got a company strength of boys to train. And, over a period of time, you find it's very difficult because you have to train boys for mountaineering. You have to train them in rappelling. You have to train them in making bases. You have to see to it pitons कैसे लगाने, carabiners कैसे इस्तेमाल करना, how the climbing ropes will be there, how we have to tie it up, how if anybody gets into an avalanche, how to find yourself out, what is an avalanche called, how to get into a crevice अगर कोई फंस जाता है, how to hold that chap, how to rescue him from crevice. So much of training goes into, and more than anything, acclimatizing. And the only place to be able to acclimatize and be is Khardungla, because Khardungla itself is 18,340 feet. So you could actually start, acclimatizing. And those days it wasn't what it is today. Today, of course, you have a lovely road which is running through, and you can have, it's a two-way, first class, aram se, no problem. The border roads are constructed so much now than what it was then. So this was the situation. So I was told, ki bhai train karo. I said, ठीक है, we were training, and so the RAC scouts also were with us, Fort Kuma also with us, and we were training. We were told later that somewhere from Raw, I think Mr. Sood, who later retired as the Director General of Raw, he was stationed in Srinagar, and he also informed General Hoon, who was the co-commander there. It appears that Pakis are doing a lot of shopping, and shopping of this high altitude clothing in Europe. So लग रहा है कुछ होएगा, कुछ करने वाले हैं. And FCA commander of Pakistan used to be General Peer Dat Khan. Now Peer Dat Khan later became the military secretary of Pakistan, and the co-commander, 10th co-commander, whose area of responsibility was actually from Wakhan corridor going right down to Rawalpindi, where he is. So you can just imagine the 10th Corps commander, and he was, I think, Jahan Dat Khan. And Jahan Dat Khan later became the governor of Sindh, and a very nice person. That is what I understand. He was retiring in 1984 in the month of March end. So somewhere, and Pervez Musharraf was a colonel, and Pervez Musharraf, colonel in 1984, he was posted in the MO. MO में Musharraf was posted. So he knew ये क्या बातचीत हो रही है, क्या हो रहा है, कैसे हो रहा है. He knew everybody. So we finally, thought कि when he went for the briefing, and after what the 1983, since the SSG of Pakistan, who supposedly commandos and class who couldn't survive on top of Siachen had to be pulled back, and for whom the shopping was being done by the Pakistanis, and they picked up all the sets, all the alpine, high altitude alpine mountaineering sets for survival in -50 and -60 degrees, all kinds of shoes, all kinds of balaclavas, all kinds of tent, all kind of equipment, avalanche rods, cords, everything, detector, shooter, jo bhi hai, wo sara kharid liya. Which generally the people pick it up for climbing Mount Everest. So whatever, as it is, not many people climb Mount Everest, and everybody knows, because Mount Everest are booked years in advance. So everybody knows कि इस साल कितने Mount Everest पे चढ़ेंगे, अगले साल कौन कितने चढ़ेंगे. So they thought, ये कैसे सारा set पाकिस्तान उठा ले गया. So General Hoon was tasked कि भाई you go and buy. And he went there, he found the same thing, nothing was available. So he said, कौन ले गया? बोले साहब वो कोई आया था पाकिस्तानी, वो तो सब ले गए. So then he placed orders for our sets. Now when he placed orders, that is much later, I think it's January के आसपास हुआ. In one of the normal war gaming में, Jal Chibber, he asked me, he said, youngster, जाएगा? I said, sir, पक्का जाऊंगा. And there is no doubt. Now I am the youngest officer in that army commanders, war gaming which is going on. Ki jana hai, co commanders there, the divisional commanders there, the sector commanders there, the MGGS is there. All the chaps, and one youngster captain sitting there quietly, didn't open my mouth, and he said, how would it be if you went in the Indian clothing? I said, sir, why not? I did go in 83, so I don't, and I have only Indian clothing, so we've been able to manage karenge, aise kuch nahi. Now he said, okay, good. So that means you will go. When can you go? I said, sir, whenever you say. He said, okay, fine, we'll let you know. Be ready. So itna bol karke the army commander left me, and then General Hoon took me aside and he gave me a dressing down. He said, bloody chap, you said you can go. How will you go? He said, Indian clothing, वो जो तुम्हारे पास है high altitude का clothing, you will not survive. You will bloody die. I said, sir, we survived in 83, we survived in 82. He said, yeah, you all went in June and you got back in October. That's a very wonderful time over there. And now we will be going earlier. I said, I don't know. When are we going? He said, yeah, we won't tell you now, but you will find it difficult. And झाड़ लगा दी, and I said, ये तो बहुत गड़बड़ हो गया. I thought the army commander was very happy that I was ready to go, and here the commander ने तो झाड़ लगा दिया कि you can't go in this kind of clothing. You need good clothing. Now this background is generally not known to a young captain. Na? क्या हो रहा है? What is the planning going on? Who's doing what? Nobody knows anything. They are only told to train and be ready to move. That's it. But rest of the things, nobody has any access to any information. But anyway, I got the first jhatka that I should not have opened my mouth. So I kept quiet, and after that kept preparing, and really surprised. The equipment landed on the 12th of April 1984 at the base camp at around 5 in the evening. 5 in the evening, this important equipment for 300 sets in Me-17, coming in the evening, all these cartons that come. It's 5:30 in the evening, and next day morning at 5 o'clock, you have to launch. I said, my God, ye to, now, when it's pitch dark, small generators, one chota sa bulb, we have to identify. Now, there are people short like me and there are people tall like you. So obviously, shoes ka size, your size of your coat, the trousers, the balaclava, everything, sizing has to be done, everything has to be distributed, whether it's medium, large, whatever it is. And you have never worn it. You will be wearing it for the first time. And some shoes, you wouldn't even know how to lace them up, because they are Koflak shoes with 3 layers, to ensure that your feet don't get frostbitten and chilblain and all. But since if you don't know how to wear them, then water and ice might go in, and you will have another problem. So all this was, anyway, the thing landed, and weather was, it was 13th. I had gone in a recce on the 11th. Weather was clear. The pilots told me, America, this is Billafongla, this is Siala, this is what Siachen is all about. At Billafongla, you drop us here. At Siala, you can drop them there. All this conversation took place. Weather was absolutely, lovely blue sky and clear. And the glacier itself was absolutely white and fantastic, unbelievable. I said, good. So on the 11th, we did this. On 12th, this equipment which came in the evening. And then 13th morning, we were told that you have to launch. So a little, maybe a month or maybe a few days before, it wasn't called Meghdoot then, we were told we were Zorawar Task Force. So the Zorawar Task Force of ours was ready to be launched, and 13th April 1984 was decided. Everybody told Brigadier Channa, sir, 13th is a very unlucky day. आपने ऐसे कैसे choose कर लिया? You could have chosen आगे पीछे कोई दिन ले लेते. No. He said 13th is Baisakhi. It's a very auspicious day, and we will launch operations. It'll be unlucky for Pakistan. Don't worry. You just see, you just bash on. They said, okay, perfectly fine, no problem at all. So, as it turned out to be, 13th was indeed a lucky day, and we were told choppers mein bat karke, and 2 in 1 chopper. All these choppers, Brigadier Channa got it in the morning at the helipads. Little over half a dozen choppers came. In each of these choppers, 2 of us were to sit. With me sat my radio operator, Mandal, and we sat and we took off. And as soon as we reached Billafongla, the pilot told me, partner, we can't land here. I said, you can't land. Then what am I supposed to do? He said, you jump here. I said, jump. Okay. I said, but be sure. I say, you're not landing because you're not sure whether the snow is soft and whether if you land in a whiteout condition, whether you'll be able to take off or not. At the same time, you're not sure whether you have landed on the crevice. So there are some problems. That is why you're wanting me to jump. I said, if I jump and if I jump into a crevice, then we'll have another problem. If we are here to launch an operation, you will have another operation to really pull me out of the damn crevice. So I suggest I have a small Ateka bori below my seat, and I said, usko niche फेंकते हैं. Let us see how deep does it go. If it goes very deep, then we'll look for another site or we'll come find out. But as luck would have it, we pushed it and we found that it was on top only. It did not sink. That means the surface was reasonably hard and it hadn't sunk. And from that height, if you push something down, 5 kg will instantly sink if there was a crevice down below. Never. So I told him, okay, now you hover, open, I'll jump in. Now my radio operator couldn't jump because he had a radio set on his, thighs and kept in his on his leg. Now it's very difficult if you're on your thighs a big radio set. It doesn't matter. So moment I jumped and I was safe. I showed a thumbs up to the pilot. I said, perfect, no problem, you can land. So he landed. Now the second chopper, which was flying and watching what's going on down below, had two of my boys who had were with me in 1983, both Ramesh and Prakash karke. So both these boys, one a Kumauni, Ramesh was a Kumauni, and this Prakash was a Ahir. So because Fort Kumau has Ahirs and Kumau, though the regiment is Kumau, but we have Ahirs and Kumau as part of our this thing, and both have the both pluses and both these kind of it's a fantastic grouping, I think, of the Ahirs with the Kumaunis. So they were there. So they knew because they were with me in 83. So they saw the second chopper. Saw I gave my thumbs up to the second chopper. He also came and landed. So we were 4 now on the glacier. And once these choppers went back, then the rest of them started doing their sorties within about maybe an hour. It would take about half an hour for the chopper to go back, early refuel, again come back, and things like that. It would take about half an hour for the. And we were 30 who were supposed to be dropped at Belafondla, and 30 were to be dropped at Siala. First, by about 11 o'clock, we were to finish with Belafondla, and after 11, 10:30, 11 as the weather would permit, the balance would be dropped to Siala or as close to Siala, and then they would make it up to Siala. Now the word La means a pass. Like Kangri means a snow-covered peak. La means a pass. So you would be dropped at Belafondla, dropped at Siala. So as soon as it was about 10:30, 11, or maybe about as soon as we landed there, about 6 in the morning, and we realized the Mandal started feeling very uneasy. And my radio operator said, इसको इतना train किया, इसको इतना बढ़िया बनाया, ये क्या हो गया इसको? So he said, Saab, I'm feeling miserable. I said, if you're feeling miserable, I think, I hope you're feeling okay. I said, next chopper that comes, isko pehle evacuate karo. So the first evacuation had already started. So from 30, we're only 29 for the very first night itself. But what night to talk about here? By about 11 o'clock, the weather turned miserable. Miserable in the world, even though I had been there. Some of these boys were with me who had also been there with me in 83. Oh, I couldn't believe blizzardous weather. It just turned. Within about 45 minutes from clear skies to blizzardous weather. Visibility zero. Heavy snowfall. Nothing. I said, oh God. I was now thanking that, thank God General Hoon has got this equipment for us. If it hadn't been for this foreign equipment, the weather temperatures dropped so badly. Unbelievable. Unbelievable is the word. And there were pop tents. In each of the pop tents, not more than 2 could stay. So instead of now being able to go to Belafondla, now having dropped, the first attempt of mine was to go to Belafondla, put the national flag, and be able to convey that we have reached Belafondla. That means at least the mission has started. And हमको बोला गया था, by 5 days, it'll be what they call it as radio silence. Nobody will talk on radio. Nobody will open radio set. If you open radio set, obviously the enemy will get to know where you are, and they would know that you are somewhere there, and they will instantly retaliate. Now, at this point of time, what's going on in Pakistan is something very, you get to know only when you read the book in the line of fire of Parvez Musharraf. Now, Parvez Musharraf, then in MO, he said, look, our generals were deciding, and we wanted to go in March, But General Pirdad Khan, since he was the FCNA commander, he said no. Having seen what our troops have gone through in '83, we will launch our operations on the 1st of May. So they were to launch operations for 1st of May, and hence had also moved forward. So they were also closer. Obviously, 1st May operations have to be launched. So they are also there at least 15, 20 days before. So they were also somewhere between Kapalu and moving around and pitching up their tents and acclimatizing or whatever that be. So we didn't know that. But what now the line of fire of Musharraf tells us that where they were and how they were, because he himself also attempted to do that. So after first day, they couldn't reach Belafondla. They were dropped short of Belafondla, about a kilometer or so behind. And so I attempted. Now, wading through that snow after this blizzardous 2 days of bad weather, it was virtually, I would say, neck deep. People like me would just go right up to neck. We were all roped up. There were just 3 in 1 rope, all roped up, attempting to go. It was impossible even to do that 1 kilometer. We couldn't even do 300 meters on that first day. Terrible. We got back. Next day again attempting. Now they thought if it does not snow at night, probably the trail would be there and it would have hardened up. So we'll use that trail to go up to 300 meters and then go. Nothing doing. Everything got covered. The next morning again going up to neck deep into snow and trying hard to get to Belafondla. So on the third day, while we were doing that, we were told come back. And what happened now? So Major Sandhu was the company commander. He said, very unfortunate. I think the boys are telling me that Ramesh seems to be getting some froth in the mouth. I think he's no more. Huh? I said, Ramesh, he was with me in '83. And what happened? He knows exactly how to live in this. So I went and saw his body and I found that this boy is no more. So he was dead, froth in his mouth and everything. Oh God. Now I said, today is only the third day. And one boy is no more. And in each pup tent, not more than 2 can live. And maximum we push them, 3 will go because they're very small pup tents. And I said, 5 days is radio silence. What do we do now? So I told Major Sandhu, sir, kuch bhi ho jaye, let's open up a radio set. And, we have to live with it. We can't leave Ramesh's body outside because he'll get buried and we'll not know where he is. So he has to be kept in the tent. Now with him, putting other boys to sleep also, they're all young boys. I said 21, 22, 23-year-old boys. They'll also not feel very comfortable. So I think we open up our radio sets. So he says, 5 days radio silence ke liye bola hai, irrespective of anything and everything. I said, sir, देखी जाएगी irrespective because now this kind of a casualty, एक तो पहले दिन निकाल दिया मंडल को. I said, he was alive, at least he could sit and go, but this one is no more. I said, we have to. Anyway, we opened the radio set, informed. We couldn't get here to anything, but they heard us of a casualty dead to evacuate. Sure enough, the chopper in that bad weather, managed to find its way and came to and said, what happened? He said, this boy is no more. So anyway, they pushed him into the chopper in whatever state he was, and he was flown out. We, meanwhile, had started walking towards Belafondla. As soon as we reached Belafondla, what do we see? In a Bell chopper of Pakistan, right on top of us at Belafondla. Now that height itself is 18,000. Now we found that the pilot's eyes, I could see his eyes, and he could see me. So when both our eyes, started seeing each other, he saw me, I saw him. But there's nothing that he could do. He just turned and left. Now the Pakis knew that what they were most dreading is the occupation of Saltoro Heights. The Indians should not occupy. They also knew that if Indians occupy Siala, they occupy Belafondla, it will be the end. They would never be able to get through to Siachen Glacier. And sure enough, we had already occupied Belafondla. The weather was clear. So the choppers that were there took that Ladakh Scout platoon, dropped them at Siala. So we now occupying Belafondla and Siala. About 10 days later, when Brigadier Channa was doing reconnaissance of that area, and he was coming through yet another route, he found that the Pakistanis were now moving towards Jongla. Now, this Jongla is the southernmost of the Lars. The northernmost is Siala, the central one is the Belafondla, and southernmost is Jongla. And there, some movement was spotted, and obviously we had 19 Kumau available to us, 2 companies. So he told them, okay, quickly now go and occupy Jongla. So they took some time to go and occupy, and in that occupation, they lost 19 boys. One officer and 18 other ranks in an avalanche trying to move. And they were moving early morning. Generally, everybody tells you in mountain that if you move early morning, there won't be an avalanche. If you move a little late, maybe, but very difficult to say how the avalanche got triggered. It could have got triggered because of a walking. It could have got triggered because of some noise, or it may have triggered or loosened for whatever the reason it is. The avalanche was so hard that all these boys perished. And we had one officer and 18 other ranks from 19 Kumau, almost 19 dead in an avalanche over there. And we took years to find out bodies, and whatever the bodies were there. Those days, the bodies were not sent home. All of it. The last rites were done wherever they are. Only a telegram would be sent that sorry to inform you and this and that you have lost your boy, and this is what it is, and this is to inform you, and whatever maybe his trunk and whatever little valuables were there, that would be sent under a protection to the family to say that this is what your boy is, he had possession, and this is what is yours. This trunk is given, and this is where it is, and that's it. But now, after the Kargil War, we find that the mortal remains are sent home, and that a state funeral is done. But it wasn't so then. So you find that then after that is very interesting, because we found that in Pakistan, somewhere down the chain, Benazir Bhutto started instigating these people, saying that "Aap log churiyan hi dal lo," and that little conversation that took place between the service officers and Benazir, and she insisted that you chaps are able to occupy Siachen, but you are trying to be ruthless with the civilian population, but the task that you're supposed to do, you're not able to do. So that triggered Musharraf, and that Musharraf, by then he was in the DGMO. By now, a little later, by the time he came into the DGMO, he saw all what was going on. He revived the plan of Kargil. Now, this plan of Kargil was actually devised when Ziaul Haq was the president in 83. And in 84, when Siachen took place, he asked this DGMO what could be done to, to see that the Indians, what they have done to us, we try and take some revenge somewhere. They couldn't obviously be doing what they did in 71, and we will do all that we can to bleed India with 1,000 cuts. But then what is it do we instantly? Because here's the Prime Minister who's screaming and cribbing and giving us Shauryas as gift. It's not done, and we'll have to do something. So this Kargil plan was there. And when Musharraf became the chief, instantly in 97, the first thing he said, revise that plan. And only 4 of them knew. The DGMO knew, he knew, the CGS knew, and the 10 Corps commander knew, and of course the FCNA commander was to execute it, who was all supposedly, they were all friends, and they decided to plan this out with nobody informed. Neither the naval chief knew, nor the air chief knew, neither did the other corps commanders knew about it, and neither was, I think, Nawaz Sharif also was properly briefed, because they thought that if he had briefed, to spill the beans and things would go off, and so this kind of a thing. And by October of 98, you find that Musharraf had already moved into Kargil Heights, because he thought that if the Indians have occupied the Siachen Heights, and they, despite all these efforts that they've been putting over the years, have not been able to dislodge the Indians from heights, here on Kargil Heights, if they occupy those heights, it would be impossible for Indians to dislodge, because unlike the Siachen glacier, where it's all snow covered, here, of course, winters is snow covered, but during the summers, it's absolutely steep climb. इतना आसान तो है नहीं है, इतना steep climb है, चढ़ना मारना. मतलब he said Indians will this thing, and once they moved to Tololing, they could interdict the highway which is coming from Srinagar, Zojila, and going to Leh, because that was just about 3 to 4 kilometers from the highway. So they managed. So October 98, these people occupied all, and I understand Musharraf himself came and slept in one of these posts in the over there for a night. So with Tiger Hill occupied, Tololing occupied, 5440, 470, here Mushko Valley occupied, there Batalik, Khalubar occupied, Dras occupied. So find that they had occupied all these heights, and the garb that there were mujahideens and non-state actors, and then there were militants. We don't know anything about it, but they were all regulars in the NLI who they had managed to get, and everybody were in CVs. None of them were found in uniform, though, whatever it is, including that Captain Karnal Sher Khan, who, after 10 years, was decorated with Nishane Haider was the tracksuit. Otherwise, it would have been very difficult for anybody to be able to see who's who, because everybody wore that Pathani suit and they were all in black. Black Pathani suit, everybody was in, except for this officer who was wearing a tracksuit. And that is how they could identify that this man is doing for last 3 days up and down. And that is why Brigadier Bajwa at that point of time, wrote a small piece of paper that this boy fought well and that you must take care of this boy. And he put that little slip of paper in his pocket. And 10 years later, that Captain Karnal Sher Khan of the NLI got Nishani Haider in the same battle in which Yogender got PVC on the Tiger Hill. So on the Tiger Hill battle too, both one from Pakistan, recommended by Brigadier Bajwa, and his own recommendation of the Indian soldier, obviously got the PVC. So you had two of them recommended by one, who on both sides getting their highest awards of the respective country. Something rare which happens. So the Kargil, you see, is the result of what Musharraf himself as a brigadier kept on fighting in Siachen, unable to occupy a single height. Even the Qaeda-Azam post, which was there, in which Bana got the Paramveer Chakra in 1987, you find that all attempts to occupy, even in during the Kargil of 5770, where General KH's battalion was there, 27 Rajput, where the Navdeep top, they call it 5770, impossible. And that was a place where Taimur, Captain Taimur of the Pak army, was sitting on top. And of course, he died. Wherein his father, who was a brigadier serving in 71 war, would keep writing to him, motivating letters, as any father would write to his son, that remember to keep the flag flying high. Remember, you're a proud son of a dad who's participated in the 71 war. His grandfather, I understand, was as a DA, not as a DA, and one of the higher posts in the embassy of ours in London. And he pestered finally and said that he wants his grandson's body. Now, Taimur's body was buried in 5770, which is adjoining point NJ 9842. So NJ 9842 and 5770 are reasonably close features to each other. That's where his body was buried. So he sent a note. Obviously, a note came from top to the battalion commander that ये अगर है तो इसको वापस करो. तो CO said मैं इसका body नहीं वापस करूंगा. अगर करूंगा तो जितने भी मरे हैं सबका करूंगा. अकेले का देकर के अच्छा नहीं लगता है. ये why only Taimur, just because he is connected to so and so, you want to take his body? I will send all the bodies back which are buried by me over there. So they accepted, and that is the only time when Pakistan has accepted their bodies because of Taimur, and the bodies went back. Otherwise, Pakistan refused to accept a single dead of theirs, because Musharraf was very clear in his mind that none amongst them were a regular soldier. Till PWs were caught, until all this thing was done, and all of them disclosed their units, identification, and to what Musharraf himself claimed that there were about 1,600 of theirs who died. And Nawaz Sharif said, no, not 1,600, over 4,000 died. Of course, we also had 527, dead on our end, and we had about over 1,300 casualties also at our end. But irrespective of that, you find that how a man or colonel to begin with, who's preview to the planning at the Military Operations Directorate, and sees all of it, sees how Indians occupy Siachen, and he writes in his book that India preempted Pakistan. So he was very clear that if India had not preempted Pakistan to occupy the Saltoro ridgeline, the Pakistanis in any case were preparing to this thing, but their date was 1st May, and we launched on the 13th of April 1984. So that is how you find that India still continues to occupy Siachen Glacier, and though we've had about 1,000 people lose their lives on top of Siachen since 1984 till date, but 90% of the casualties are primarily due to weather. Only about 10% of the casualties are actually due to firing, because since 2003 the ceasefire is there, and so therefore there is no firing actually it is taking place on top of Siachen. But the weather casualties are far too many. Obviously the enemy is the weather. That's something like that. And now you see how in Kargil, where Musharraf thought that Indians will never be able to dislodge them and will never be able to regain the height, and then he would have that as a bargaining to make India pull back from Siachen, and should he want to, and then internationalize the Kashmir problem, because the similar agreement does not allow it, expect issues to be settled bilaterally. But then he thought Well, then India will be on the back foot. He thought he would be able to interdict the convoy, and therefore he would not be able to, send the winter convoy. Logistic sustenance will become difficult. Obviously, the troops will starve. As per his planning, neither of it happened. The things opened. We pushed and reoccupied all the heights that had been lost. Obviously, more of the intelligence failure, both at all fronts, and but subsequently, of course, being able to, the young officers, the men, the leadership, the senior officers, subsequently even the political leadership, all decided. The artillery did a wonderful job, unbelievable, unbelievable for the artillery. Had it not been for artillery firing, into direct firing role, oh, it would have been impossible. 100 bloody guns firing together on respective objectives. The Air Force, with the precision bombing of the heights which had taken place. Air Force also lost the aircraft. Air Force also lost the helicopter. Their logistic bases being bombed. So you found that once artillery and the Air Force took charge of the bombardments and flattening of the heights, the infantry attacks, despite that, we lost 527. So you can well imagine how difficult it would have been, or rather impossible it would have been, had it not been for the artillery, had it not been for the Air Force. Because softening of the targets is done. And softening of the targets, and in that cover, the infantry is moving up. And that is how we could regain our heights at Kargil. But of course, the trigger to Musharraf was Siachen. Had it not been for the Siachen, probably Musharraf would not have done it. Ziaul Haq would not have planned it. But all said and done, we came out victorious in Kargil. We have come out victorious in Siachen. And the credit goes entirely to our young officers and the men. Super. Unbelievable. You can't match the kind of Josh, the Jasba, the Junoon, that feeling, Dil Mange More, Naam Namak Nishan, I'll get wrapped in the national flag, but I will ensure that my battalion does well, that he does well. It's super. This kind of motivated troop, motivated leadership, motivated senior leadership, ensuring that all logistic arrangements are there, allowing you to do what it has done. Everyone, whether it is in Kargil, and of course, and all of this, I would say, Siachen was like a acid test, and that is where it helped, because once you have this thing. So what happened in Eastern Ladakh, you saw that how quickly our troops could adapt and adjust at 18,000 and 20,000. So whatever the Chinese could do, they thought that they had mobilized, but here we could not only mobilize, but mobilize fully acclimatized troops who knew how to fight at a high altitude, who knew what it means to fight in lack of oxygen. They knew what it means where the food turns cold. So they knew what is insomnia, what's headache, what's hypo, what's a frostbite, what's a chilblain, what it means to be having zero visibility, how to survive, how to communicate. All that, the Chinese weren't ready for it. So all these years of training from 1984 onward, and then the same training helping us at Kargil, and the same training helping us subsequently. I think that was a huge thing, and I think the credit goes to the young officers and the leadership. That's it, Mohammed, for you.
Sir, thank you very much, sir. Wow, this was really some one energetic talk by you, sir. Really loved every moment of it, sir. And sir, I had promised I will not take much of your time, but ये बातें एक घंटा कहाँ बीत गया बिल्कुल मालूम नहीं पड़ा था. It was like I was listening very intrigued. Good sir, I sincerely thank you for your time, sir. I sincerely thank you for your time, sir. Take care, sir.
Thank you very much, and wish you all the best. And Jai Hind. Take care, and wish you loads and loads of good wishes. God bless you. God bless you.
Good night, sir.